And we're live.
All right.
Hey, all.
Good
Hello.
evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome to those that are already on board. You guys are keen tonight. Wow.
Yeah. Hot topic.
Yeah. We're all getting in. I guess we've all had really busy weeks, and why we stopped our live before. But I think this topic was one we had to make time and adjust and get out there and kind of talk a little bit about it. For those of you that don't know, we're going to talk a little bit about what we know, or I guess we're able to figure out based on the way that this is written about Bill C-11 and how it might affect us as content creators.
And you as viewers.
And you guys as viewers of what you see.
Yeah.
Not only on YouTube, but on any internet platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all the way through like Facebook, TikTok, even like Netflix, Prime Video, it
Rumble,
affects everything.
Yeah, everything. Everything is put into this that be online, and the goal is in this legislation, you have one side of the government that's saying we're bringing this in so that the media has to be subject to the same rules as legacy media, social media has to be the same as legacy media. So that means that CRCT, which is a regulatory body for those guys, which are not elected, and it's not a doctrine, it's a separate portion of a government entity. So it makes its own rules is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
The CRTC is now going to control what you're allowed to watch, what we're allowed to show, and what those companies are required to produce. So that being said, the left side of this argument is saying you need to have these put in place because without it, we're not getting the proper Canadian representation of content, the required Canadian values, which I thought was a really weird term they put in there. What does that mean?
Yeah, what is that?
What does that mean to us? We don't know. There's no specifics on, does that mean that Canadian values could be whatever the government of the day decides? So what if what I think is different than what you think? Like, we're both Canadians, but whose values are right? According to the CRCT, they're the ones that decide. So.
Yeah, and right now we have like a YouTube algorithm that we use to get our videos out there that actually create or show you or recommend to you what you want to see. Like if you're watching certain types of videos, YouTube's algorithm is going to show you the stuff you're watching and you like watching.
Yes.
Right now, what's going to happen is this new legislation, this new law is basically put in place that they get to decide what you're going to watch next. You're not going to get the recommendation that YouTube has. You're going to get the recommendation that this new act has.
That's right. And the worst part about it is they're saying that one of the pushbacks is people are going, well, we don't want the algorithm. And that's one of their sticking points, is they want to see that algorithm happen so that they can control what you see first.
Yeah. And then how does that affect us? Like, you know, we're basically two kind of different things. Like you're doing your cattle, different things like that. I'm doing like gardening and chickens, both Canadian content.
Yes.
And so how then do they deem which one is greater Canadian content?
Yes.
How are they going to do that?
Yeah. We don't know. The
No.
bill is really vague. I mean,
vague.
That's why for me, like all the research I was able to do, it wasn't like there's a guideline on what you can and can't do. It's open-ended.
I don't know that it's been determined yet. I think
it hasn't. So it passed through as far it has already is a bit concerning for me, and it should be for you guys as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. For us, we're worried because right now we can't show certain things, like when we did the processing video with you guys, you know, how to process a chicken and try and teach homesteaders exactly how it's done, each step, every step of the way. These companies already are really hard on us about that. I can't do it on YouTube. I can't do it on Facebook. There's certain things I can show. There's certain things I can't. But now the CRTC comes in, and let's say they decide that processing your livestock on farm is against Canadian values, or you know, the butchering of an animal is against Canadian values because it's their decision, not ours.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that means I can't show you anything. You won't be able to see none of the process that we did.
Yeah.
Which I think is it's a little bit overbearing. I mean, the purpose for us for doing the YouTube channel is a video vlog for showing Gracie how the farm started, our daughter.
Exactly.
When we get older or whatever else, when she needs to go back and look at videos and go, oh, mom and dad aren't around, how do I butcher a cow? How do I butcher this? Well, YouTube became a platform for us to put some of the stuff on. Or, you know, how do I fix a carburetor and some of my mechanical stuff? So when she sees all the junk laying around the farm, she can see how I got it, how I built it, and how to maintain it, or how some of the poorly maintained stuff was created. But maybe the CRTC decides that that's not okay to fix your own farm equipment or whatever else. Well, how do you know? You don't know. It's a reach, I know, but it's a potential, right?
Yeah, it is discerning. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. So like, it's just a whole bunch of uncertainty. So I guess like we're kind of wondering, like, what is your guys' thought on the C-11? And, you know, we know that it basically is an expansion from the C-10, which basically was regulating all the radio and the television.
Yes.
And now they've branched out into the internet because, let's face it, we're on YouTube and social media because that's where the people's at. And they know the same thing. So, I mean, as homesteaders, as people have come out of the city and like we've been learning as we go, like we've been doing this for 7 years, maybe 7 years, started gardening much earlier than that. But we went to YouTube, we went to Google looking how to do a lot of things years ago and then learning from experience with that. So how do we know that that is going to be available to any of you guys, how to do these different things, like even finding recipes and things like that? We go to YouTube. How does that affect our search engine when we're looking things up in Canada?
I think that's the scary part for us.
Yeah.
You know, for us right now, I feel like our media is our social media, I should say, is really, really free. Maybe it's not as good as it can be, obviously, but it's good. You can put out a great majority of stuff that can teach people or whatever else, tips, tricks, hints, you can find it. But, you know, it's concerning when there's a government regulatory body who has, let's call it, special interests in certain things. Does that mean that you can't find those anymore? Like, what if, you know, they don't want you making your own cold recipe at home, so all of a sudden yours is not available to be out there? And, you know, it's just,
they say that it will still be there. You still just need to look further or search longer. But like we don't know, right? So like, I guess none of us are really in it for the money. There's no money involved. I get paid nothing by YouTube. And I like to call it my Zucker bucks from from Facebook, because I've made about 12 cents on Facebook in the 2 years we've done it. And I mean, you can't collect it until you hit 100, so we'll never hit it. It's not that anybody's doing this for money. It's just really to share your experience and maybe help some other people out. For us is a big one. And then in the future to help our daughter. But it would be a sin to see that stuff go away. Yeah. Well, that, and we're in this world of individualism. And so where does our individuality go as a content creator? You know, like they say that basically the the CTRC?
CRTC.
CRTC. They say that, I forget what I was going to say. What was I talking about?
They say they're not going to put the algorithm in place to drop your content or whatever, but we don't know.
So that's what I was going to say. So basically, there is something I was reading in there that you can be penalized if you're not complying to the
narrative.
Yeah. And basically what is stated is that the possibility of penalism would be that your content would go further down on the news feed.
Not just that, did you read the portion that first offense is $25,000 fine? Which is ironic, because you know what else is the first offense is a $25,000 fine, up to $25,000 fine? butchering, processing your livestock at home and selling it to somebody.
Mhm.
That's the same fee. Funny, eh? $25,000. That's I guess they've decided that's the number that will hurt you enough to
See, that's
comply, right?
so it does affect us. Like we can't get away from it. It's a big step for them, and I get it. Like I get that is where the people are at. People are on social media, they're on the internet, they're streaming everything. And so that's where they want to get their hands in, because I mean, let's face it, during COVID, that's what people did for 2 to 3 years.
Mhm.
They were on the internet. But
So there's a couple of comments here.
Oh, yes.
So Dana had mentioned the CRTC could decide that you're not allowed to show cutting a tree down.
Yep.
It's true.
Learning Curved Acres says mentorship is going to be essential if censorship continues. I believe it's pronounced a day. Is that a day?
Do you know?
I can't read it too good
Sorry.
from here. Sorry. I'm not sure.
My apologies
Yeah.
to not be able to pronounce that, but they mentioned, thanks for bringing this issue up. It's scary that history has, as it happens, can be rewritten or erased.
It's true.
Yeah.
And,
They're continually trying to erase history.
and then Dana also mentions meeting people face to face, buying books, and passing on knowledge in person may be the new social media again. Which at one time, that's basically what it was, right? Like before all this technology, you had the old farmers passing on, whether they were writing it down or they were just passing on to others to write it down.
And that's the thing, like I've learned a lot of stuff from our neighbor. He's taught me a lot of things about, canning and gardening, but they're still like even censoring the books that are in the library.
Well,
like that's how bad it is.
That's
they're
it, right?
replacing it with other things that should not be there, and
Well,
won't go into that too much.
But they've taken some canning books out of the libraries.
Yes.
You can't even get them.
But I think, if you really want to draw the big leap, and the one for me is the big leap, is legacy media is not trusted anymore. I mean, it's over-regulated, it's over-censored. They're required to comply to too many things to be considered independent, in my own opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hate to see us head down the same road.
Yeah.
Because for me, we're just a small farm in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's not like you think we'd be the target, but if you're handing out information that they might deem as not okay, well then what, right?
Or Canadian content.
What is Canadian content other than being produced in Canada? They haven't specified that even, so we don't know what Canadian content is to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that it's sad, because I feel like, I mean, there's always been Canadian content creators, but I feel as like homesteading, getting back to basics, ranching, different things. I feel like finally, like Canadians are starting to be a little bit more seen and visible out there on the internet and streaming. And so to see this come now, it's a disappointment, because finally, like we were starting to see how you garden in short season climates. Because for a while, whenever you would search up gardening or things like that, it was always usually from the States, where I'm like, okay, but I don't have the same growing season as them. So to me, it's just disappointing, because as a Canadian content creator, I'm like, we were finally starting to get visible.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So Matt has a question there. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the same thing as they did on the radio.
Exactly.
With, CanCon.
It's the exact same. It's being run by CanCon.
Yes. Yeah. Matt was over to my place this morning when we had a good chat on it. He's done some reading too, and he was the same, basically said the same thing as me. He couldn't believe, kind of how the wording was done on the bill. It's so vague that we don't know which way it's going to fall. So it's good to have a conversation about it now. Yeah. Because it could change drastically. Right.
And that's kind of why we wanted to bring it to your attention. It's not that we know 100% what's going on, but I was talking to other content creators that are like, well, I don't really know what it is. So this is a great way of sharing with you, like, this is going to affect you.
And then on top of that, for the last few months now, like every time I've been on some of the social media platforms, the actual, whether it be YouTube or Instagram, they have their own ads talking about it and how they're not for it. So if it's bad for them, it's going to be definitely bad for us.
The fine for they're calling it a corporation. So let's say you're a corporation, which could be an incorporated farm even, or an incorporated homestead or a business that puts something out there, is up to $1 million first offense. So for YouTube and stuff, let's say you as a creator do something that's not okay, the CRTC misses it, they could find you the $25,000 first offense and them $1 million. Well, I mean, do you think they're going to let you put content on it if it just costs them $1 million? Probably not, I wouldn't think. But I mean, maybe it's just me being a bit more concerned than I need to be. But
as far as I know, like, YouTube is actually not supporting this either, because as content creators on YouTube, we have made a little bit of money on YouTube, and our revenue comes from AdSense.
Yeah.
And so basically, like, YouTube is kind of our boss, and they make money when we make content. So it's affecting them. Like, we're just little people, but there are like large Canadian content creators on YouTube that generate a lot of revenue for YouTube. So they're not going to support this either.
Well, how about the convoy? Let's talk about the convoy. We're fortunate to live, or unfortunate, depending on which way you look at it, close to Ottawa. And I had to go down to Ottawa anyways. I was down with the convoy. There's some really big YouTubers that were down there.
There was.
Whistle Stop Cafe was down there. The guy from Saskatchewan there, I forget it.
Crack Pot Farmer?
I think that was him.
He was small when he first started. He's grown.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, these guys they're logical people. They're talking a lot about a lot of sense, but they were down there showing one side of what was happening, and legacy media was showing a completely different sense. One's regulated by the CRTC, one wasn't. What you know what I mean? Like, where were we, right? I had to find out for myself. I went down and I seen it, and I tell you, it wasn't legacy media. What they were spelling out that made sense to me. It was what was being shown was these independent guys out there like Whistle Stop and these other fellas on social media. But what is going to happen in the future, we don't know, right?
Well, it's just like me. Like, I worked in healthcare for 18 years, and I had a conversation like just a couple weeks ago with someone, and she's been in healthcare for 30 years. And the media had brought out that, like, the condition of the ERs were terrible. And don't get me wrong, they're terrible. Patient bedding is sitting out in the hallways. You're working around, literally going past like 2 beds in the halls that are waiting to get care, to go and do care in other rooms. This has been happening for 10 plus years. Yeah. Only just during COVID was it brought to view. I know because I lived in it. So, like, I know how things are regulated, but they made it seem like it was just COVID that did it. No, that was like 10 years ago. It was happening. And so if they're that regulated on those issues, they can definitely do that in this as well. Like, yeah, you might think like, okay, well, it's just canning and gardening and homestead. No, but this is the stuff, like, we learn to live off of this stuff. This is how we're providing food for our families. This is how we're training up our children and sharing with other people, because the nice thing about social media is that we can help teach other people around the globe. And that's the whole goal of social media. And I like being able to reach people in other countries. It's nice to know that I've helped somebody learn something I never would have met otherwise.
I think that's the key, is right there. You can help a lot of people. Yeah. I mean, for us, we did a chicken processing course last year. My dad's a butcher, and my wife and him we're having a family dinner. So my wife and him said, you got to do the course. You need to teach people this stuff. And my dad's like, yeah, people don't understand. Like, you'll be amazed. People want to come learn it. And I didn't think that anybody would show up. I really didn't. And I said, whatever. That was an experiment. Throw it out there and see what happens. That chicken course sold out, but I could only teach so many people. You can only teach, 5 people a day to do it properly. But on social media, one video could teach an infinite number of people. Mm-hmm.
And there's
that's the
a
difference.
need out there for it. People want to know. Like,
Oh, it's sold out for
I mean,
us. Yeah.
you know, just today I was doing a video, filming a video on like cutting back the flowers off my peppers because my peppers are huge right now in the house. And I'm like, oh, who would really need to know that? But there's so many people out there that just they don't have the knowledge of the basics yet. And that's who like we're trying to reach. Like, I'm passionate about the things that I share about on my channel, and who has a right to say whether or not I can put that on my channel, because I'm passionate about those things.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, for me, I think we haven't really scratched the surface on talking about agriculture in Ontario and Canada alone yet on my own channels. But there's a lot of stuff that we learned that I had no clue, because I was a consumer 3 years ago. I wasn't a producer.
Yeah.
And I learned, and there's a lot of it that just doesn't make sense that I'd love to talk about. But will I be allowed to talk about that later? Could I criticize the agricultural system that's in place? Well, maybe under CRTC's guidance, we'll call it, that won't be allowed.
Mm.
So that's one of the concerns that I have that way.
No, I have seen that the reason why this bill was supposedly introduced and put into place was so that Canadian creators, whether you're on the internet or even on other basically platforms or streaming platforms, is that they wanted to get more Canadian content out there. Don't get me wrong, that is a great idea and I support that. However, I don't support that we have to be regulated to be on there.
No, I agree. And I think when you see both sides, there's only one argument that it seems that side has, is saying that.
And I think it's good. But
then the
who
rest
says
of,
that who says just because I'm Canadian that I only want to watch Canadian content?
That's it.
Who decides that for me? Well,
yeah. What are the questions looking like?
Yeah, so comments? We have some comments here.
Because there's a few guys that have read up on it that I know are watching tonight that probably know way more than me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So I'll just read some of these ones. So Dana says, "I'm afraid YouTube won't have any choice but to only broadcast your content to countries other than Canada," which, I mean, it's hard enough for people to even find Canadian content.
I'm sorry, when we started, like our first year, most of our viewership was from like India and I forget where else, but that's where it came from. A lot of our viewership. I mean, it had to do with chickens, and I guess that's a really big thing.
So how much more is going to be difficult, right? Like,
yeah.
And then Remy says, "Crazy to think you can grow your own weed in Canada, but you can't watch the gardening show you want."
Remy,
I love it. But that's another one, like Canadian content. Okay, here we are with all these rules that you can grow your own drugs, like they say. But yeah, that's a great point, Remy. When we looked for Canadian content on cattle, when we started, we couldn't find anything for Ontario cattle running heritage, heritage cattle doing rotational grazing and stuff. And Jenny put it all out there on TikTok because it was Canadian. Like, yeah, I found lots of stuff in Kentucky and Texas and wherever, but their climate's not what we have. Their grasses aren't what we have, etc. Right. So yeah, it's great. But at the same time, there's a lot of it out there now. Is there really a need to regulate that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there's just some other comments about the convoy in Ottawa. So Dana said that they spent a lot of time in Ottawa, and it was nothing even close to what was being depicted by the mainstream media.
Yeah.
And then Farmer Red said, "We brought equipment to Ottawa and had many folks here after the takedown for most of the summer. Met lots of ex-military who are disgusted." That's all I can say about that there.
Jeremy's on.
Welcome there, Jeremy. Thank you for joining us. Dave says, I learned how to fix Baft's equipment from Rob.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know if you call it fix or keep it running, but we'll see. Wait, I've got some mangled stuff. But I mean, that's one thing where when I went on YouTube, there wasn't somebody showing me how to fix something with nothing. But as a kid, my dad and his friends, you know, they showed me how to make things run out of nothing. And it turned into a career for me later on, right? I became an aircraft mechanic. But the thing like that, it was, YouTube didn't exist when I was a kid. So when something broke, you had to track down someone with knowledge. And yeah, that's a great experience. But now I can get it on my phone.
Right now, people are building their homes off of YouTube videos, like learning.
There's quite a few numbers out there because of the whole COVID incident and all that, where people want to be more dependent. And I see that.
Well, I can tell you for self-reliant is a good way to put it. I can tell you for a fact, like we supply the feed and seed at our place, right? The chicken feed, we carry a little bit, like I'm talking a tiny amount. Our little shed is what, like,
it's tiny,
4 feet wide by like 8 feet long, and it's stocked full of feed. And I'm at the point where I'm going, oh my, there is so many people in our own little area that are living off grid, building a cabin, running chickens, pigs, goats, sheep, cattle, raising kids, homeschooling, and at school. Some are a mix of both. It's just unreal seeing how many people are going back to this lifestyle. But everyone I've talked to said they couldn't have done it without YouTube.
It's true, 100%.
Because you can't gain all that knowledge from just one person, right? Like,
no, sometimes you have to branch out.
That's the sad thing. Like I grew up with like one set of grandparents because I was part of a second marriage, but so I didn't have, the knowledge from my other grandparents, but my grandparents both died. Like I was quite young, so I didn't like my grandmother made bread from like the pig fat and saved the pig fat for like everything that she cooked. Like, and she had tons of gardening. Like I think they did like meat rabbits, all kinds of stuff. They did maple syrup. They did so much, but I was young and all I wanted to do was have fun at that time. So then looking back, like I was raised in the city and from birth on, and I'm like, how do I learn all this stuff that like my grandparents grew up doing? So YouTube has been like a huge outlet for many, many people. And I'd like to see it continue that way, where you can go on and find what you need to find to go back, because with the prices of even groceries right now, like the fact that I can grow like pretty well a lot of my vegetables, can them, freeze them, dehydrate them, you name it, is saving us money in the winter when things go high. Like it's a necessity, and it's a sad to see that it could be taken away. Like it's probably not going to be taken 100% away. We don't know
what it will look like,
but
whenever Big Brother wants to reach their hands into freedom of speech and freedom in general, it's nothing but a benefit. There's no benefit whatsoever.
No, I don't see it. I mean, I see the original legislation being Bill C-10, or sorry, Bill C-10. This is kind of an adaptation to it. C-10 didn't intrude on the Charter of Rights and Freedoms of free speech, right? Where what the opposition of this bill is saying, this is a blatant turnaround from Bill. This is infringing on Charter rights and freedoms, and it's still got passed through. So that shows you that they're doubling down on this, and I'm really worried on what that could lead into. I mean, yes, the opposition is going to make it sound worse than it is, and you know what I mean. There's always truth somewhere in the middle. That's right. But yeah. I mean, it's a concern for everyone in the YouTube community, homesteaders, people that, even if you're like living in the city, like we did a whole series this winter, and I think a lot of people that watched that series were looking at getting into this. Yeah,
getting out.
Well, what if you don't have 2 years under your belt and all of a sudden the CRTC decides to start bumping our content down the list because it doesn't match up with Canadian values, right?
Mhm. Well, then they're just going to have to go to the store and pay $8 for a cauliflower.
Or how many mistakes would they make if they didn't have YouTube? I know myself, I would have made a lot of costly mistakes had I not had YouTube. I made enough on my own as
That's
it
what I was going to
was.
say. I made enough of mistakes on my own.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So Sam CJM says, I don't get the fact that you can act stupid on YouTube. They promote that, but if you want to promote something like how to grow something, there's no such thing.
That's a great point. Jamie talk about it all the time. If we ever wanted to get a whole bunch of subscribers or whatever, we'll just get something nice and destroy it, and that'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get a bunch of subscribers, but it doesn't
They're
make
not learning anything.
they're not learning anything. There's no sense to it, right?
Anyone can destroy something.
Yeah. Are those people worried about the CRTC infringing? No, because it's not really going against the government narrative, so CRTC is not going to care.
No. Dana says, I try to make a conscious effort to write notes and keep records and documents as much as I can when I find info on the web. It may very well be gone tomorrow, and that's very true.
I do the same. I got like a little book that Beef Farmers Ontario give me, and it's just jammed full of info. Some of the stuff we've done, I always carry it, but yeah, I mean, just because you never know. But now I'm definitely worried, right? Yeah, I'm lucky that we have a good basis of knowledge to start on. I mean, I think it was it was good for us to get that down, but I'm concerned for the future content that we wanted to bring out. It may be affected, which is concerning. Yeah.
I'd like to see, I'm curious to see how the algorithm will work, because it seems to me there's going to be a YouTube algorithm which already exists, and we're kind of, I wouldn't say we're getting the hang of it, but we're getting kind of used to it, and we're learning about it, and then they're going to throw an
added firewall.
It's almost like there's a double algorithm to go through. On top of the one that's already challenging to learn itself.
So Deep Roots Landscaping says, so just to play the devil's advocate here, if the government is trying to promote and force these big platforms to air more Canadian content, isn't that good for us?
What is Canadian content is my question.
That's what I'd like to know.
So the wording of Canadian, so is it just because we live in Canada?
Yeah.
Or is it because we follow along in a certain narrative that certain other groups are wanting to promote and bring more out to the world and Canadians as a whole?
Well, let's just say, what were the people that didn't get a vaccine called under Trudeau? What did he call them again?
Small fringe minority.
Small fringe minority. Because
those people.
So that's they were not Canadians, he said.
They were not Canadians.
So is anything they put out now not good? Because there's a lot of good info that those channels provided me over the years. That's my question. I put that to Matt earlier today. What is Canadian content other than being generated in Canada? The obvious one, but I mean, what is a Canadian value these days? Depends on who you ask, right?
At the homesteading as, not looking at the homesteading itself. Say you're a Canadian content creator and you're doing strictly recipes or strictly gaming, because that's big too. There's a lot of things. What makes that Canadian content creator Canadian?
That's right.
So I'm not just doing, we're not just talking just about our niche. It's what will make those other niches be seemed Canadian?
I don't know. I watch, I'm in the market to purchase a new firearm. I've been watching a pile of YouTube videos on firearms and stuff because I'm looking at reviews, right? Because they're expensive. It's a lot of money. So, most of that content is generated in the States. Some of it is Canadian, but I mean, it's not like you can say, well, can you generate that content for me? Because it just doesn't exist here. We don't have the population everywhere else. We don't have the number of people that are purchasing that specific firearm I'm looking at is a pre-order only here in Canada, but down there in the States, it's already available. Yeah. So you know, that's a legit dilemma for me, or a problem, I guess. Yeah.
Deep Roots Landscaping says the music industry has benefited as far as getting more Canadian bands on air.
I've heard that. Yeah.
And then Data says, as was mentioned previously, getting together at events such as the upcoming conference community can be built, and C-11 may be less effective.
Yeah,
It's true.
That's true.
And there could be more of that.
I'm not saying that they're gonna go after us. I'm just
No.
saying the way the bill is written is leaving it open for that.
Yeah.
And you know, I hope that it does benefit us as Canadian content creators. And you know, we just don't know. So it's not that we're trying to just bring up the negative necessary, but we want to make aware of the changes that are happening, and the fact that how many other bills have basically, you know, the government, how many is
Well, the one that was
out there right now?
2016, I think it was, right? Like, I forget what that bill is called, but I mean,
Which one's that now?
oh, the one where if you misgender or
Right, yeah.
I forget what bill that was.
Mhm.
I mean, you can go to jail now.
But why was this one so high up on the list? It had to be done like right.
Well,
at this
it's
time.
probably because all the negative comments that Trudeau was getting on his feed, right? That's probably some of it.
Yeah, I think there's a legitimate concern by the governing body that they were not being portrayed in the best light as the rest. This is just a personal opinion. I don't think they were being portrayed in the best light by regular Canadians making content, and that's what pushed this bill forward for them. Yeah, that's just my opinion.
True.
Again, forgive me if I can't pronounce this. Adid says, if the fringe minority is non-Canadian, then social credit score will decide, it seems. And then Dana asks, who will define Canadian content? The CRTC?
Yes, that's what they're...
What would make the CRTC the authority on Canadian content?
Can I stop that?
Yeah.
Right then and there is the dilemma that I seen from my reading. Well, part of it, there's a lot of stuff I seen I didn't like, but that was a big part of it. Was the CRTC is not an elected officials. It's not an elected body. It's a separate entity. So who's controlling them? We don't know. Like, it's
anyone that's filling the pockets.
It's not the public that's deciding what Canadian content is. It's a separate organization. That's the thing. It should be elected officials, whether that be good or bad, you know.
But I think some of it too, correct me if I'm wrong. So for years, like us growing up, television and radio were huge. I mean, I don't know the last time I turned on a radio or the television because we use the internet so much. But so basically the shift from radio and TV has went to online streaming. So now so basically you have companies such as Bell, Rogers, and Chorus Entertainment that have been losing revenue. And so they're seeing that the revenue is on online streaming, whether it be Netflix, Prime Video, YouTube, TikTok. Now they're seeing, so they're basically wanting to get their hands into the revenue that is online streaming because it's taken the place of radio and television. And that's basically what I think's happened.
Yeah, I would think so. But have you watched, maybe if you get time in your day? I know most of us here most of you guys are homesteaders and stuff. I see you're busy, I know, and you're working and this and that. But if you get a chance, turn the CBC radio on in your car on your way into work, and you'll wonder why they're losing money hand over fist.
I can't even tell you the
terrible content. Like, they're putting stuff out because the CRTC says you need Canadian content, but that's great. I think that's perfect. However, if you're losing money and it's a losing business because there's not enough Canadian content that's good that people are listening to at the time, and there's no investment in it because it's terrible, some of the stuff that's coming out, that, like, I don't know if, like, you've got to watch and listen to CBC for a drive-in from here, it's about an hour for us to go anywhere. An hour of CBC, you're just like, oh, I could see why they need $400,000 a month to keep them afloat. It's terrible. The content's horrible.
Wow.
You know, but they're obligated to do certain things by the CRTC to put it out there. And that's, I think, my another one of my issues with it, I guess. If let's say me and you are forced to create some content that involves the CRTC's decision of what Canadian values is, well, I mean, I have a hard enough time bringing good content out as it is. Imagine what it would be like then. Yeah. Anything else that's coming up there?
Just Dana mentions, I can't remember the last time I turned on the television to watch anything. I mean, we have a television, but we use it mainly as a big monitor for a computer to watch YouTube and other social media. So, yeah. I don't watch a lot. It's just every once in a while I'll put the CBC on the way into work or whatever. And I remember going working in Pembroke. I have the CBC on just because I couldn't get any other channel stations or whatever that I actually would rather listen to.
Yep.
And just some of the stuff I'd end up just having to turn it off. It's just a lot of it was just nonsense.
It was nonsense. I'm picking on them because it's easy, but global news is not great either. CTV is just as bad. Their TV shows, they're not. They don't make the best content in the world, but when you're strangled by a governing body, it's not like it's their own fault either, right?
That's true. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I'm thankful for you guys to showing up to, watch this tonight. Anyways, it was important for me to kind of talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, and to get some other ideas of what you also think about this bill.
Yeah.
Because it's going to affect the viewers just as much as it's going to affect content creators too. And who knows, like maybe there's going to be content that's from other countries we're not going to be allowed to.
Well, that's just
right?
it,
Like,
right?
Yeah.
You look at China and some of those other countries,
South
there's only
Korea,
certain things that they're allowed to view.
Mm-hmm.
And if it goes against the narrative, you face the consequences.
And that's the thing, like, talking about what is Canadian content, honestly, Canada has changed its looks over the years. And I can't even tell you that I'm like, I don't feel that Canada is what Canada used to be. So, I mean, the things that used to stand out for Canada, freedom and rights, that's different now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what it's going to look like.
Adi asks, I believe it's a question, are other media platforms being touched by this bill, like satellite radio,
podcast,
or podcasts?
Anything that's online.
So I think anything that's radio, I don't know about too much about the satellite radios or anything like that.
I'm not sure about satellite radios. I don't know, but I know that anything that's
basically
online,
any type of content, really, anything,
Yeah, like podcasts, certainly. Yes, they will be affected.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Knight says, we get very little Canadian content in Essex County, but get Detroit, Toledo, and Cleveland with Ariel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dana says, I'm afraid this bill will be like the old saying, give them an inch and they'll take a mile. Where will it stop?
That hit the nail on the head for me there too. That's why I was like, when I heard this on the radio, I did a quick post on our social media and I called these guys. I was like, we need to talk about this because that this is like it's about a foot, not an inch that this bill is giving them. And there's no clear terms defining where that's going to end. So,
and the crazy thing, again, back to the whole convoy when it was taking place, they were told they had to leave and everything, and you get these other protests out there that I don't agree with, but they have the right to have their say, and they're being praised. And you have, I think, well, it's part of the strike, I guess, that's taking place, but you can see a video of Singh or whatever his name is from the NDP out there chanting, give us more money, you know, like
Mhm.
help us get more money and blah blah blah. And there's no slap on the wrist of him doing that, right? Like
it it's a surreal experience too for any of those that did see you know, the power of social media. Maybe there's a few viewers on here that aren't from Canada, but they use social media to generate a protest for that convoy that started on one end of the country and ended it halfway, you know.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
You know,
exactly, and that's what they're trying. I believe that's what they're trying to stop from
yeah,
happening again. Like, it brought people together.
yeah, from all
And
walks
I
of
mean,
life.
let's face it, like you guys on tonight, like a lot of you, you're watching us regularly and we've gotten to know you, and it's like we wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for this platform. And I would like to think that there's going to be people in the future that we're going to get close with,
Mhm.
that haven't started watching us yet but might not get the opportunity now.
We've
You
made
know?
so many connections the same way too within our little farm community, just using Facebook and stuff. You know, selling piglets
Yeah.
locally,
Well, even
getting
advertising your processing, like a
yeah,
lot of that's done on social media.
yeah, yeah, and you know, then it generates good friendships with
It
local
does.
people that are around, and you really learn the farming community. Like someone that we met here, I won't mention names, so I don't know if they'd want the two or whatever. But anyway, they purchased some piglets off of us, right?
Hmm.
So they come pick the piglets up, and he was talking cattle, and he's looking for cattle. Well, I got him a line on finding some cows, you know, because I knew somebody else who I'd met through social media that was looking for cattle, and they're an off-grid homestead that's local to us. And then he called me, he said, "Can I borrow a trailer? My trailer's in use right now." I said, "Well, I don't have one to give you, but I got another guy's number." And it all started from social media. I
Yeah.
met all those people from social media. He reached out to that guy. That guy said, "Yes, not a problem. You borrow the trailer. I'll give you a hand or whatever." Well, that's another farm that just added cows
Exactly.
locally that has not been farmed in probably 70 years that is now going to be running large livestock again, all because of a
Exactly.
Facebook page.
And the same thing with, purchasing my garlic. I wanted like certain types of garlic. I found that through social media. There's people looking for certain type of chickens, whether you're into heritage breed, there's groups out there for backyard chickens, for first time chicken owners. There's groups for heritage breeds, all on social media. So if that's not there, how do we find these connections to get our heritage breeds, or maybe certain types of seeds that we're looking for? It
Yeah.
affects everything. It does.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so
But that's another thing. You know, the agricultural industry here in Canada is very streamlined into one specific thing, and what we do is very different than the norm. We run different cows, we run different
It's true.
setups, we do things on a smaller scale opposed to a larger scale. Everything is done a little differently, and maybe some of that isn't in line with what the traditional system is.
Mm.
And I think that's okay to step outside the box because it's an older way of doing it. And to us, we think it's a more obtainable way
Yeah.
for people looking to raise stuff on a smaller scale. But, you know,
Yeah.
with the lessons that we had learned through Facebook and YouTube and whatever, it saved us big time in the long run.
Yeah.
And I'd hate for all this, what do you call it? Return to homesteading and
Basics,
self-reliance,
yeah.
return to basics.
Yeah.
The movement that's happening, I would hate to see its lifeline, which would be social media, get cut out from under them in some way, shape, or form. Yeah.
as data says, social media has become a sort of community hall,
Yeah.
but for a much larger community.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad that we could at least bring this to the knowledge of you guys. And it honestly made me look further into it, because when Rob had brought it up, I knew like a little bit, but I didn't know as much as I knew now, just by researching and things. So that was kind of, why we brought this up, and talked about it. We wanted to make you guys aware of what's going on and how it can affect you at home as well, not just us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm kind of a doom and gloom kind of guy. I don't really trust the government too much, if I could be honest. So, like, you know, Deep Roots is saying stuff here like about it, we might vote them all out or whatever out of office. And I kind of smirked at his comment. I smirked a little bit, but you know, that brings up a whole topic about, you know, a voting system and whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
Don't get Rob
don't
started.
get me started.
Don't
get me started.
Different life.
Anyway,
No.
but what I mean is like it's not the end of the world by any means for content creators.
Yeah.
But what it is another thing that could potentially affect what you're going to put out and what you guys as viewers might be able to see. So,
and I've read and I've watched a couple other videos on this as well, and what they're saying is I don't know how true it is, but basically the consensus I got is that basically the CRTC can basically put any videos that they want or any streaming that they want out on your feeds that are not your norm. So say that you're basically you love watching tractors. And so you're got right now on your feeds, you got tons of tractors coming on and you're watching them and you're loving it. So the CTRC can then go ahead and start putting, I don't know, like nail polish and haircut and stuff all on your feed, and you don't even want it. And so basically what they're saying is that if you're wanting to see your usual, like whether it be like Tomlin's Backyard or Denby View Ranch, they're saying what you're going to have to do is go to your subscriptions and just go to their page and watch them. But I don't even know if you can do that. Like it's so uncertain right now.
we
But
don't know.
that's what I was reading and watching on certain other contents that was coming up when I was searching out the C-11 bill.
I tried to read the bill and it was so vague, it was difficult to read. It doesn't give us a good example of what is coming down. We don't have a clear picture of what it's going to look like. All we know is one side is saying, here's a benefit, and the opposite side is saying, this is not okay for all of these reasons. For me personally, I only see a whole bunch of negatives. I don't see that one positive outweighing all the negatives or potential negatives.
Yeah.
You know, and that's going to be a bit of a time will tell. Right now it's passed the Senate.
Yeah.
And the information online about this bill could even be censored if it passes. So
especially if you're against it.
It's, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's just a strange thing that I didn't think Canada would be charging forward with in today's day and age. Yeah. It's like we're taking a step backwards, if you ask me.
Dana says free speech has got to be free speech.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah,
it's true.
Matt says Deep Root says power's still within the people, and I think he's right. Like you know, there's going to be an overwhelming amount of people that are not going to be okay with this if they go through with it and it passes even further and it comes out and then all of a sudden they start, you know, screening everyone's content. Well, then people are going to have enough, right? I mean, there's a conservative petition happening right now on the conservative site. You can sign this petition. They did the same thing with the Bill C-11, the weapons bill. They had, I forget how many millions of signatures on it, and it was enough for the government to table that legislation. It's put off. And it actually just passed last night. Its time deadline, so it's going to be scrapped basically. And it was the people that said no, this is not okay. So that might be the case in this bill too, if, in my opinion, or if it goes the way I'd like to see it. If it happens that way, that would be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, Dana says if people don't like what they hear online, they can change the channel. I definitely agree with that. I mean, there's certain things I don't like, so I just flip up or skip or whatever and watch the stuff that I want to watch. So
yeah.
And then Deep Roots Landscaping says the people will remove the dingbat, aka Trudeau. I would take it.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I mean, I think in the meantime, for us, we're gonna keep doing a bunch of videos and streaming and get out what we can. We just got pigs back from butcher today, so we're probably going to be doing I got them cut into primals, so that means that it's cut and it's like 4/4. So we're gonna do a little course on that. We're gonna teach some people again, you know, how to do pigs up from primal cuts and then down into sausage, and we'll have the my dad do it, and that way, like, maybe I can video it and get it out. Maybe it won't be accepted, I don't know, but
Get it out there anyway.
we're gonna get it out there. I know you guys are still gonna forge ahead with your gardening videos regardless of what happens. So it's
yeah, we got lots. I mean, I'm gonna be going and picking up my Chanticleers on Thursday.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
I like
I'm just gonna
birds.
keep going and till I can't, I guess.
Yeah.
Dana asks you there, Rob, any wiener pigs left?
No, sorry, Dana. They or Dan, they sold within an hour. All of our piglets that we had to sell was sold within an hour. I will have some more coming available around August. The sows are back with our boar now, so it'll be 3 months. We should see another litter. The girls got a little, like the girls, I call them, they're my sows. They're pets, if you can't tell. But anyway, so my sows, they're a little fat. Eh? They need to go on a diet. So we're going to run another litter of pigs through them this year, because the piglets, they take a lot of that fat off of them. And that way I'll have some healthier sows coming in, because they're overweight for what they should be. They just got spoiled a bit too much this winter. So
Bruce Landscaping says, bacon!
Yeah. I don't really want to. So
Rob doesn't want to give up his bacon.
No. Jenny's not here tonight. She had to do dental surgery, so she's keeping it quiet tonight. But last year, Jenny and me did markets with our pork, right? And we met some awesome people, speaking of that, like homesteaders and cottagers and people from the city and all walks of life at our markets, buying products, right? And they seen our content online, which is showing exactly what our farmers like. I got nothing to hide, the good, bad, and the ugly. It's all there. And I like that ability to show whatever it is. You know what I mean? And it sold well. It sold so well that around November, I went into the freezer to grab a package of bacon, and I had a meltdown because it was all gone. She sold it all. So today we got back, I think I've got probably 80, 90 pounds of bacon back. So yeah.
Are you hoarding it?
I'm going to hoard that. Yeah.
Secret stash place. We have freezers.
Yeah. That stuff's
they
like,
won't be
So if
touched
you need
by
your
us.
fix, you don't have to worry about it disappearing.
that stuff's like gold. Yeah. I'll tell you, anyway. Yeah. You never want to run out of bacon. Not in November. And you're like, oh my.
It's barely even winter.
It's not even winter yet. It's going to be a long one. It was quite the night. Yeah. Jenny, we're doing it all wrong. That was just a meltdown. It was bad. But anyways, we got our pork back, and that went good. We've got calves dropping all over, and that's awesome to experience.
I love seeing those posts. You were having like calf here, calf there. I was like, woohoo. Yeah,
I lost some hair, I'm sure.
You did.
Well, I'm from stress, I'm sure. Yeah. The hairline will recede a little further, but yeah, because they all came pretty well at once.
They did.
But that's an excellent thing to see, is having cows on the farm and calves on the farm. And we learned some stuff about tagging. I need to do a video on that. But anyway, yeah, I think it was a good start to our summer, and I hope that everyone that's come out to watch tonight is enjoying kind of what we're putting out there. I know I'm watching a lot of your stuff. I can't even keep up. You guys are pumping it out, so yeah.
Well, it's just what we do. I'm like, that's the one thing about doing the homesteading thing. I'm like, it's not like I'm going out of my way to try and video. I'm like, well, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And videoing it too, and teaching as I go along. So, I mean, that's what I love about this. It's like, I have a passion for it, and I want other people, to know that you can do these things. And that's the heartbreaking part about it. It's like, I used to not know how to do a lot of this stuff, and maybe there's times where you felt like you weren't good enough that you could learn it. And my passion is that I want to encourage people to do it and live this lifestyle.
Yeah, same.
And the fact that it may not be able to be out there for everyone, I don't like that.
Yeah. That's the same. And so many people we do run into that are in this lifestyle you need support from your friends.
You do.
You know, it's tough sometimes, and you know, it's hard on a couple, it's hard on families, because we're trying to jump back 2 generations in learning about stuff, and there's gaps, and we're trying to fill
gaps. Yeah.
So it's nice that, you know, a lot of these people that are on here tonight, and a lot of the people we deal with on YouTube and Facebook and whatever, we're going to see some of them at the homesteading conference, and it's nice to build that sense of community in that group, and to have that support of, I don't know what I'm doing, but I can go online and find it to help me. Yeah,
or talk to one of your other connections,
right? Yeah. How's the comments doing, Jay?
There's just slowing down now. Deep Roots Landscaping mentioned this great chat. You guys, let's see what happens. I'll lose it if I can't watch my homesteading videos for sure.
Yeah.
And have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining in Deep Roots Landscaping.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think that's a good spot then to pack it into. What are we, about an hour? That's probably
about
enough.
An hour.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's nice to just get it out, get people talking about it and thinking about it. And
I think the more others bring up the topic of C-11, especially for those that are in Canada, I think the more you pump it out, give the information to people that may not know much about it. And again, people may still agree with it.
It's fine.
And that's their
and
right.
I would like to see it be a positive thing.
I would be, yeah, I would too.
You know,
but again, it just comes down to why is the government getting their hands
and you know, and I love the fact that they're wanting to put Canadian content out more. Like, I love Canada. Canada is a beautiful place to live, and I'd like to say that I'm proud to be a Canadian. But in the last few years, I really haven't been. So I would love to be able to say, you know what, yeah, let's push this Canadian content out. Let's share, you know, everything beautiful about Canada. But I would love to see Canada go back to the way it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
I like, I like the fact that this place was built on small farming as its mainstay to put its name on the map. And I know before that there was trapping, and before that the natives had it figured out, and we're just trying to get back to that as far as I'm concerned. But you know, I love seeing a return to it, because it wasn't something that was pushed in my generation. It wasn't something that was taught. It was something that just wasn't an option. But to learn how, you know, us going through it, to see it, it's done. And I wouldn't say it's easy, I guess, but it's obtainable to just about anybody now.
It is.
And these situations like platforms, lives, and the social media has made it possible.
That's right. Yeah, it's made it possible.
So Remy says, Robin Kendra, I'm bringing rooted elderberry cuttings to the conference, and we'll maybe have an extra one.
Ooh, I would love you, Remy.
Yeah.
If I do, you basically he's asking if you want.
Yes, I
For
do.
sure, I'm sure, yeah.
What do I have that you would want? I'd like to trade.
We can trade you some stuff too, Remy. Send us a message there. We'll hook you up.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's one thing I don't have is an elderberry plant, and it's something that I have wanted to have, because we do a lot of like elderberry syrup for cough syrup in the winters. So it'd be really cool to have.
We take it as a supplement, like it to fight off colds and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
it's got a lot of antioxidants in it. So.
Yeah. Well, we buy it. Oh my, it is dear. It'd be nice to be able.
Well, that's the thing. I bought it in like I don't know if it was a 5-pound bag. Dehydrated, and they're pretty costly. I think it's from Ontario where I got them.
Yeah. And
they're near and dear. So you use what you can only afford to use, because you want to make it last longer.
Yeah. I love it. Like my summer savory.
Yeah.
So he says it's only a foot tall for now, but I guess it'll grow fast.
Oh yeah,
that's cool.
That'd be awesome.
I hear that they spread, like there's different types of elderberry. So yeah, I heard that there's some that spread quite a bit.
I wish Jenny was here, because she's gonna like you, Remy.
And we can't wait to see you this weekend.
I can't wait. I think the homesteading conference is gonna be awesome. I get to meet all these guys. And
I know.
you know, we're doing a chat Saturday morning. I think we kick it off. We might be the first ones. So hopefully everybody's half asleep. That doesn't have to listen to me.
Make sure you're super early so you don't miss him.
Get your sleep the day before.
I think our chat is, I shouldn't say I think, I know our chat on Saturday to kick it off is going to be a quick overview of what we did to bring our old abandoned homestead. Like many places here are abandoned homesteads, even back where Deep Roots is. At one point that was a farm. So it's the same idea, right? And we're going to just kick it off with how we used livestock to bring it back on a fast pace, like quicker than just using heavy equipment that is unobtainable, right? So we're going to kick it off that way. That's going to be the basis of the chat, is bringing back a homestead in a hurry through the use of livestock.
Yeah. It's I think it's a great idea. Good way to do it.
Yeah, it should be a good one. There's lots of good info I'm excited to hear too. So yeah. Right. And vendors. So yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I'm sure I'll let Kendra close us out, but I appreciate you guys listening to us
ramble on
about our concerns, and hopefully shed some light on where we are on where I stand, at least. I know. Yeah.
So thanks for watching. As Rob was saying, we're so happy that you tuned in, and just continue to share like this content on your social media if you can. But we want to make awareness for what's going on, and we 100% support Canadian content, so that's what we're all about. And we're hoping that our other content creators like ourselves are going to be hopefully continuing to push the things they're passionate about, because we have a message to share to you guys, and that is that you can do this lifestyle. It's possible, and we're going to help you and guide you from what we have learned so that it's more possible for you to learn quicker and easier, and hopefully somewhat error-free.
Save us some money. That's a great way to put it, Kendra. Yeah.
Our mistakes will be your blessings.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. So until next time, don't forget to sub us, and don't forget to hit the like button, and thanks for joining. Take care.
Thanks, guys.